time travel for a moment, back to the beginning of the 21st century for a glimpse of a teenager, dealing as all adolescents do with questions such as, who am I and what am I to become? In an interview at the time of the grand opening of the Meredith Center for the Arts, David reflected upon this period of his life. He cited the influence of teachers, including that of choral director Kathleen Murphy, who helped me gain confidence in my voice, and that of art teacher Carolyn Sleeper, who always instructed her students to follow their passions and be courageous. To one teacher, though, he gave special tribute. As Henry Adams once wrote, a teacher affects eternity. He can never fail, he can never tell where his influence stops. For David, that influential teacher was English and humanities instructor Wilton Sale, whose health unfortunately does not permit him to be here this afternoon. In David's words, Wilton Sale's English 11 class was a real eye-opener as to the fervor with which one could speak about the arts and the humanities. Mr. Sale generously donated to the school library his collection of VHS videos of great opera productions, about 40 in all. I watched one almost every night with my father. They were my introduction to learning the repertoire. After classes, Mr. Sale would talk to me about the operas. He helped me form my opinions about the art form and taught me how to be an active listener. I sometimes think, now, years later, that it all started at the Norfolk Collegiate Library when Roz Klein, the librarian, allowed me to take Mr. Sale's videos home with me, one at a time. I fell in love with a beautiful world I never knew existed, one that has made my life rich beyond my wildest dreams. I was blown away. I had previously succumbed to social pressure and conformed by making fun of opera as boring and not relevant to my life. I was clearly mistaken. Without question, David was mistaken. He went on from Norfolk Collegiate to earn a bachelor's degree from the Peabody Conservatory and a master's degree from Juilliard. His career as a recitalist and opera singer has taken him not only throughout the United States and Canada, but Europe as well.
If music be the food of love, sing on, sing on, sing on, sing on, till I am filled with joy. For then my listening soul you move, for then my listening soul you move, to pleasures that can never cloy. Your eyes, your mien, your tongue declare that you are music everywhere. Your eyes, your mien, your tongue declare that you are music everywhere. Pleasures invade both eye and ear, so fierce, so fierce, so fierce, so fierce, the transports are they move, and all my senses feasted are, and all my senses feasted are, the pleasures are both eye and ear. Sing on, fair nymph, enchant me still, the charms may wound, they cannot kill. Sing
happy Valentine's Day. So thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. That was lovely, and it's just a real honor to be back here at my alma mater. Go Oaks! I'm a proud graduate of Norfolk Collegiate, and like Mrs. Jones said, this is really where it all began in a lot of respects. I was 16 years old when I started singing with the Virginia Opera in the chorus, and in Mr. Sale's English class, he would always ask me, so tell me, what do you think about the operas? I can tell you the history, but let me hear your thoughts, let me hear your opinions about the opera. And he would encourage me to actually come up with my own opinions, which was something as a high school kid listening to opera, I didn't really think I was allowed to do. I thought they were these old, dusty operas, these things that lived on a library shelf somewhere, and we couldn't really relate to them. But today, even though Shakespeare has died now 400 years ago, 1616, we're going to talk a little bit about how some of his plays and some of his writings went on to influence music for hundreds and hundreds of years to follow, and really what that means to us today. So what we just heard, this selection that I sang for you, is by British composer Henry Purcell. Now, of all of the composers and all the music I'm going to sing for you today, which is a lot of really good music, if I have to say, this is the only piece that will also have been written in the same century that Shakespeare lived, in the 17th century. So when I think of the 17th century, when I think of that, I think of, ladies in bodices and sort of frilly coats, and I think of sort of dusty etiquette, and I think of very refined emotion, and without this big outpouring, effusive affection. So it's somebody expressing their love for somebody else, but in a very tasteful and stylized way. So let's go ahead now and fast forward. We're going to move all the way ahead into the 20th century, beginning of the 20th century, and we're going to hear another admiration, another poem of love about Sylvia. This is now going to be a British composer, Gerald Finzi. Finzi, we're going to go ahead and hear his setting from Twelfth Night of Who is Sylvia. Now, in the play Twelfth Night, the character just kind of stands up and recites this beautiful poem, but it doesn't really have a lot of influence on the plot line itself. This is more an excuse for Shakespeare now, in the context of Twelfth Night, to just kind of show off his linguistic ability. So, now listen to the difference, though. We just heard this very refined, classical, symmetric, beautiful piece of music. We're going to hear something that maybe bursts with a little more affection.
Sylvia, what is she that all our swains commend her? Holy, fair, and wise is she, the heavens such grace did lend her, that she might admired be. Is she kind, as she is fair, for beauty lives with kindness. Love doth to her eyes declare, to help him of his blindness, and being helped inhabits there. And to Sylvia let us sing, that Sylvia is excelling. She excels each mortal thing upon a dull earth dwelling. To her let us garlands bring.
I always think of those last few chords that Finzi writes, like da-da-dum, bum, 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 bum. It's almost, I got too enthusiastic and now I have to contain myself. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. I mean, Mr. Sale always did that. He said, listen to the music. Listen, it's telling you something. The composer didn't just write these notes because they sound nice. It's telling you something. There's a purpose for everything there. Now, let's do something interesting. Let's take that same exact poem that we just heard. It's directly from Shakespeare. There's no librettist here to sort of change it around. And let's go to the beginning of the 19th century, 1827. Franz Schubert, who is one of my favorite composers, an interesting guy, he died 1 year later when he was just 31 years old. Schubert was known for writing songs, mainly. He did write some other things, some symphonies, chamber music, piano sonatas, but his songs, the output of songs, over 700 songs he wrote by the time he died in 1828. But in 1827, when he was still a young man of 30, he went ahead and took this same poem and he said it in his own unmistakable way. Now listen to that sort of restraint. You know, it's sort of in there. You have this locomotive kind of thing, right, in the piano that's sort of driving him forward, but it's still kind of proper. Yeah? Now I'll put it to you, which one did you prefer more? We had two settings of the same text. One was by the British composer Finzi, so the early 20th century one, and then the other was by Schubert. So who prefers the English, the British setting? Show of hands. Got a couple hands. Who prefers Schubert? Good taste. Very good. Okay. No, it's of course, there's no right answer. There's no right answer. So one of the things I'd like to look at now is a famous monologue that comes also from Twelfth Night. This is another instance. Twelfth Night has a lot of instances of a play within a play. This was a vehicle that Shakespeare he sort of invented this, and then this was championed by a lot of other folks who wrote for the stage, operatic composers, things like that. You have it all throughout opera, actually, Cavalleria Rusticana, which is the opera that shows up at the end of The Godfather 3. There's like a play within a play there, and then Pagliacci that happens as well. So one of the things, the characters all get up and they recite these monologues for one another, just like you heard with Sylvia. This is the same kind of idea. Now, this one is Come Away Death. So not a happy monologue, clearly. Come away death, and in sad Cyprus, let me be laid. It's a really dark monologue, and what I'd like to do now is, again, do the same idea. I want to continue this theme and juxtapose two settings of Come Away Death. Now, what I'll do, since that last one wasn't entirely fair, one was in German, one was in English, it changes the words a little bit, the flavor of it. I'm actually going to give you now 2 early 20th century British composers setting the same exact text. Come Away Death, the first one is Roger Quilter, and the second one is our friend Finzi that we heard a minute ago. I'll just share with you, for me, when I listen to it, what I find kind of interesting. Now, both composers decided the last line of this monologue is about weeping, right? It says, and weep there, to weep, the last 3 words of the poem. Now, they both decide to really do something we call text painting. So what that means is instead of just singing to weep there or whatever, they have this big long melisma where the singer goes to weep there. So you really get the sense of weeping in the music, right? So listen for that in both songs. It's interesting how both composers use that text painting.
Sad silence, let me be lain. Fly away, breath. I am slain by a fair cruel maid. My shroud of white stock all with you. Oh, prepare it, my part of death, no one so true did share it. Not a flower sweet on my black coffin, let there be strewn. Not a friend grieves my poor corpse, where my bones shall be thrown. Thousand sighs to save, lay me away. Sad true lover, never find my grave. To weep there, to Sad silence, let me be lain. Fly away, breath. I am slain by a fair cruel maid. Thousand sighs to save, lay me away, sad true
two different settings of the same text. First one was Quilter, and the second one was Finzi. Who goes for Quilter? Who goes for Finzi? It's about an even split. Okay, we like Finzi. Okay. Now, so in 1582, Shakespeare was 18 years old, and this is something they don't actually teach a lot in history classes. He winds up getting a 26-year-old lady pregnant at 18. Her name was none other than Anne Hathaway. That's true, that's actually her name. No relation, I don't think. But they go ahead and they run to the courthouse and they quickly get married, and 6 months later they have their first child. Now, 18 months later, Anne gets pregnant again, and this time they're twins. And a boy and a girl, Susanna and Hamnet, Hamnet, Hamnet. So they have a great life together, a really beautiful marriage, and when Hamnet is 11 years old, he tragically passes away. So what happens the next 2 years is that Shakespeare writes his great play, Hamlet. So scholars now dispute whether or not Hamlet has anything to do with Hamnet, but how could it not? I mean, you have a name like Hamnet, and then he goes and writes Hamlet just right after his son passes away. It's pretty clear that there must have been something there. We don't know exactly what it was. But Hamlet became what is easily and arguably the most influential play ever written. And beyond that, it's actually Shakespeare's longest play. When you go see Hamlet now performed at a stage company or a theater company, they perform a greatly abridged version of the original play. An uncut version of Hamlet would clock in at well over 5 hours long. Yeah, it's almost like an opera. So it's 5 hours. So what happens, though, these scholars, though, the critics at the time, they even took his great monologue, to be or not to be, that is the question. And they said, you know what, that doesn't even need to be there. That's just an excuse for Shakespeare to continue writing another monologue, one monosoliloquy after another. It's just too much. So, of course, we know that's not the case. And what Shakespeare was really doing is showing the tortured nature of that character, Hamlet, and what was really going on in his mind, whether it is nobler to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. He can't grapple with humanity. He just can't exist. So let's fast forward now to 1856. The French composer Ambroise Thomas was obsessed with Hamlet, and he decided that he was going to set Hamlet into an opera. Now you have a problem with this, though, because as you may know with opera, you know, it's the old Jackie Mason joke, you know, when somebody's about to get killed. So, oh, he got killed, and then he sings, I've been killed, and then the chorus all comes out and say, you've been killed, and then it's really one line of text they repeat again and again. So if you have something like Shakespeare where it's so wordy and verbose and goes on, and that's 5 hours, how are you then it would be a 40-hour opera. So how do you set that to an opera? And the answer was, of course, to cut. Cut, left and right, we're going to cut this. This act doesn't go. Gildenkrantz, Rosenstern, they're out. They don't need to be there. Ophelia, whatever, maybe we'll keep her in a little bit. So bit by bit, they just throw out all of this stuff. And so what does he do? He throws in the middle of the show a drinking song for Hamlet because it'll sort of balance out what goes on. He says, Au vin dissipe la tristesse. He's talking to the wine, and he says, dispel the sadness that I have in my mind. And it's, even though it's a drinking song, and you'll hear it's very upbeat, it's got a lot of pep and kick and pizzazz, it just doesn't quite make you happy, because there's some darkness behind So in 1994, so we're way past Shakespeare's time now. In 1994, a bunch of filmmakers got together to decide to do an animated version of Hamlet. That's the Lion King. The character Simba is Hamlet, and his father, Laertes, is killed by his uncle, Claudius, who is Mustafa and Scar. So he goes out into the wilderness and sort of redefines and figures himself out. Rosencrantz Guildenstern are Timon and Pumbaa, and he falls in love with Ophelia, who is Nala. So a lot of people don't realize that, but Lion King was absolutely 100% inspired by Shakespeare's Hamlet. And so Tim Rice and Elton John got together, and they wrote what was one of the great songs, really, of the 90s.
There's a calm surrender to the rush of day, when the heat of the rolling world turns us all away. An enchanted moment, and it sees me through. It's enough for this restless warrior just to be with you. And can you feel the love tonight? It is where we are. It's enough for this wide-eyed wanderer that we've got this far. There's a time for everyone. If we only learn that the twisting kaleidoscope moves us all in turn. There's a rhyme and reason to the wild outdoors. When the heart of the star-crossed Voyager beats in time with yours. And can you feel the love tonight? It is where we are. It's enough for this wide-eyed wanderer that we've got this far. Can you feel the love tonight? How it's laid to rest. It's enough to make kings and vagabonds believe the very best. It's enough to make kings and vagabonds believe the very best.
I keep forgetting I have to grab this microphone. I love that song, and to me, this is one of my soapbox moments where I say, somebody could say to me, a classical music snob, or somebody could say, why would you do Elton John on the same program as Schubert and Verdi? Because it's all great music. That's why you do it. You do it because they all express something, and certainly with the theme of Shakespeare, it ties in beautifully, I think. Now, arguably, no composer was more influenced and more inspired by Shakespeare than the great Italian composer Giuseppe Verdi. Verdi, again, all of this is debatable, but to me, he was really one of the greatest, if not the greatest composer of opera that ever lived. Verdi, there's so much you could say about him. You could talk about how his music helped unify Italy and the unification of Italy and all the stuff that happened with Nabucco and everything. But what's more interesting to me, Verdi had already achieved a certain level of success. In 1846, he had written 9 great operas, and he decides that he's going to go ahead and tackle Shakespeare's incredible commentary on what it means to be a king, Macbeth. And he's going to set Macbeth into an opera. So he goes ahead and he sets out to work with a librettist. And again, he encounters the same problem that our friend Ambroise Thomas did, which is it's just so wordy. What do you do? I mean, you have one monologue, one soliloquy, one of these scenes with all these extraneous characters that kind of come in and out. And how do you sort of fit that into an opera? Well, Verdi did a great job. I mean, it was an incredibly well-received opera. I mean, it was not his biggest success by any means. But one of the things I want to actually read for you here, he went ahead and took Shakespeare's monologue. This happens in the 5th act. That's right, 5 acts in the 5th act. Macbeth has sort of a commentary on his life. It's a beautiful thing Shakespeare writes, and he says, I have lived long enough. My way of life is fallen into the sear, the yellow leaf, and that which should accompany old age as honor, love, obedience, troops of friends, I must not look to have, but in their stead curses, not loud, but deep, mouth honor, breath, which the poor heart would fain deny and dare not. So this happens 1846, Verdi's 10th opera. He opens with Macbeth, and the great column of the baritone repertory is this aria that I'm about to sing for you now.
scienze presaghe han profetato. Esser poi sanguinario feroce, nessun nato di donna ti nuoce. No, non temo di voi, né del fanciullo che vi conduce. Raffermar sul trono questo assalto mi debbe, o sbalzarmi per sempre. Eppur la vita sento nelle mie fibre, inaridita.
As those of you who know artists, you know performers, you'll know that all performers, all artists, and tell me if this is true, we're all our own worst critic, right? We're all our own worst critic. Verdi was no different. 1846, Macbeth was actually a pretty good success. I mean, people really enjoyed it. He got good write-ups, but deep down, Verdi knew that he hadn't done justice to the great Shakespeare, and it haunted him for the rest of his life. It drove him crazy. He would go on to success after success. He wrote Traviata, he wrote Rigoletto, he wrote Aida, he wrote La Forza del Destino, he wrote, I mean, everything, one hit after another. He wrote Don Carlo, great Don Carlo, all these amazing operas. those years that he had really done what he was meant to do and set Shakespeare. So, you fast forward a little bit, you look at his life. 1871, you have the opening of the Suez Canal. Verdi gets a contract to go down to Cairo for the opening of the Suez Canal, and they want him to go and write a new opera, so he writes Aida. Aida is a huge success, and not only is it a big success musically and artistically, but it makes him a very wealthy man, because the Egyptians go ahead and pay him what's the equivalent today of about $9 million to write this opera. So he's done. He says, 1871, I'm done. I was born 1813. I'm sort of an old man. I'm going to go back to Milan. I'm going to just hang out. I've got a nice life. I'm a celebrity. And he says he's retired. He's done writing opera. Except for his publisher, Giulio Ricordi. He says, listen, I know the way to get Verdi out of retirement, and it's Shakespeare. The next year, 1872, knock at his door. It's Giulio Ricordi. He says, Maestro, will you please write another opera? Because he knows he's going to, get a cut. He's going to get rich off of this. And he says, no, I'm done. I've said everything I need to say. And it says, but Maestro, what about Othello? So that did it. Now, previously in his life, Verdi had become so obsessed with this idea of Shakespeare, he even started to think about writing an opera about King Lear. And that never happened. He threw that away. He said, that's not going to work. He even tried to revamp and revise Macbeth, and he did, and it wasn't quite what he thought it was going to be. But Othello caught his imagination. It took Verdi 16 years after he retired to come back out of retirement with Othello, which is then in the Italian Otello, we call it. And one of the many reasons, of course, you have to cut a lot of stuff and move it around. He got a different librettist, this guy Boito, who was much, much, much better. Neither of them actually spoke English. But they were so obsessed with Shakespeare, they were such scholars of the stuff that they really did it justice. They spent their time with it. One of the great moments in the actual Shakespeare play of Othello comes right before this whole handkerchief business with Desdemona or Desdemona and Iago. Iago is this villain. And Iago is sort of Othello's right-hand man. Othello is this big, powerful Moorish general. And Iago decides he's going to get into Othello's head, and he's going to tell him that his wife is being unfaithful. And so they plant this whole ruse, and they steal a handkerchief from her bedchamber, and they plant it in this other guy's head. It's really terrible. So they go on with this whole opera, and it continues for a while. But all of these great actors, Sir Laurence Olivier being one of them, when they were perform the role of Othello, they could never figure out, why is Iago such a terrible person? What's driving this character? Why is he so awful? And there's even the famous story of a play, a performance that Sir Laurence Olivier was doing, when the guy who was doing the role, I'm a singer, so he says he was singing Iago, he was acting, playing the role of Iago. He comes over to him on stage, and he kisses Sir Laurence Olivier on the mouth. And he walks off stage. And Sir Laurence, after he finishes his scene, he comes up and says, what on earth was that? What did you do? He said, well, maybe I thought he was in love with you. I didn't know. So actors always struggled with, what was it? What was it with Iago? How could he be such a bad person? Verdi solves the problem. He does. He goes ahead and he writes this piece that I'm about to do for you, the Credo, where he stands up and he says, Credo in un Dio crudel che m'ha creato simile a se. I believe in a fake, false God, a cruel God, a Dio crudel, that created me in his image. So he's a Satan worshiper, is essentially what it is. And he's saying that's what drives him forward. So he actually motivates his character in this monologue. Now, it's one of the great things. For a Verdi baritone, this is the best. You get to sort of stand on stage and holler for a good 4 or 5 minutes. But it's a fabulous piece of music. Now, you listen to the very end. It has this big climax, and then it kind of fades away. And in that moment, if you don't speak Italian, I'll tell you what's going on. He's saying, after all, dopo tanto illusion, after all of this illusion, after all of living, la morte is death. He says, e poi, and then, and the piano kind of, or the orchestra kind of fades around and says, and then what? And then what? La morte è il nulla. There's nothing. And that's it. He says, heaven is an old wives' tale. So that's the character of Iago. He's a really nice guy, and I want to sing it for you.
La tua meta già vedo, ti spinge il tuo demon, e il tuo demon sono io, e Trascina il mio, e quale io credo inesonato di Dio. Credo in un Dio crudel che m'ha creato simile a sé, e che nell'ira io no. Dalla viltà d'un germe o d'un atomo vile sonnato, son scellerato perché son uomo e sento il fango originario in me. Sì, questa è la mia fe. Credo, confermo cuor, siccome crede la vedove nel Tempio, che il mal ch'io penso e che da me procede per mio destino adempio. Credo che il giusto è un istrion neffardo, e nel viso e nel cuor, che tutto in lui bugiardo, lagrima, sguardo, bacio, sacrificio e onor. E prego l'uom, gioco di tua sorte, al cerve della culla. Al ferme della verde. Dopo tanta risione, la morte. E poi la morte è il nulla. E vecchia folla il cielo.
They would chant Viva Verdi in the streets. So he was this tremendous celebrity. Everybody loved Verdi. They couldn't get enough. And so here he had finally done it. He had achieved what he always wanted to with Shakespeare. And yet something still bothered him, which was that almost every opera he ever wrote, with the exception of his second opera, which very few people know, Un giorno di regno, was a tragedy. I mean, these heavy, dark, deep operas, it's what we all refer to in opera as a high body count. You know, a lot of people die in these operas. So he decides to team up with Boito. He had so much fun coming out of retirement to do Othello. He says, well, maybe we'll do just one more. It's sort of like the Cher farewell tour. You know, it's like, well, maybe just one more. You know, we've got to do another one. So he goes ahead and he teams up with Boito, and this time they use as inspiration The Merry Wives of Windsor. But what a lot of people don't know about the opera, which was later became Falstaff, was that he actually pulls from Henry IV. There's all kinds of monologues that are taken out of Henry IV to give the fat knight, Sir John Falstaff, an extra character of dimension. One of the things that moves me the most about this opera, it's the last opera Verdi ever wrote, 1891, it's Falstaff. The final way he ends the opera is with a fugue. A fugue is a musical structure that was used in sort of the Baroque and classical style. It has a lot of counterpoint, and it really wasn't representational of the style that Verdi was writing. It's very unusual. But more than that are the words that he sets to the fugue. Tutto nel mondo è burla, e l'uomo è nato burlone, which means all of the world is a stage, and we are the actors. It's a fabulous, fabulous thought. So Verdi, this opera, when it premiered in 1891, was the biggest success of his life. La Scala, the opera house in Milan, which is where it premiered, charged 30 times what they would normally charge for their tickets for the premiere of Falstaff. And next year we're going to do that here as well. We're going to charge 30 times what we all pay together at this concert. And so, are we okay with that? Can we do that? Okay, good. So, but he did that, and because every aristocrat in Europe came to see Falstaff. This was the moment that solidified Verdi in the canon of the greatest composers that ever lived. 1891, this premiere. 2 hours of applause after the opening night. 2 hours. They called him back onto the stage. The audience went insane. And so what did he do? He picks up a baton and he starts conducting encores. So singers come back on stage. The audience was in such a frenzy, they carried Verdi on their shoulders through the street of Milan back to the hotel where he was staying, the Grand Hotel di Milano. And they had him up all night long until the sun rose. They were screaming Viva Verdi at the top of their lungs. It's an incredible thing. And I'll also share this with you. When Verdi died, just about 10 years later, it shows how beloved he really was. He was sick. He was an old man, and he's living in Milan. He was so beloved that the mayor of Milan arranged that for 10 blocks in every direction of his hotel where he was staying, they would pave the roads with hay so that the horse-drawn carriages wouldn't disrupt his sleep. That's how beloved he was. So anyway, this aria that I'm going to sing comes from Falstaff. This is the character, Henry Ford. He thinks his wife is cheating on him.
Abbian fede i babbei Oh, mia moglie a se stessa, collai la sorte, quella brutta parola in cor mi torna, lei torna, pure caprone fusa porta, ah, ne corna, ne corna, ma non mi sfuggirai, no, Sasso, reo, dannato, epicurreo. Prima li copio, e poi li colgo, e poi li colgo, li colgo, li copio, li copio, li copio, li copio, li copio! Io smorfo!
Just as a guilty pleasure thing, when I was a student here at Norfolk Collegiate and I was getting ready to do, Mrs. Jones will remember, my auditions at James Madison, at these different colleges, I didn't really know much about opera. I was still kind of green, I was new to it, and so I was singing at the time at Virginia Opera in the chorus, and we were doing a production of a Verdi opera there, Un ballo in maschera, a masked ball. It's an early Verdi opera, and I heard the baritone. I knew I was a baritone, and he was a baritone, and he sang this big Verdi aria. So I thought, well, that's what I should sing, because I have the same voice type. What they don't really tell you, and I didn't realize this until much later, was it was kind of grossly inappropriate for a 16-year-old to try to be presumptuous enough to sing the master Verdi. And it still kind of is. And, even though I'm 31 now, and doing 3 big staple Verdi arias in a row was just such a guilty pleasure thing. I mean, right? It's not what you normally see, but why not? It's fun. That's the thing. We should have fun with this music. It doesn't need to be stuffy. And that's what Mr. Sale taught me. It's what these other teachers here, they all explain that to me. Be passionate about something. Just because you're in high school doesn't mean everything has to be blasé and whatever, man. You can really get excited about something, and for me that was opera. So I love that I got to do this, especially doing it here. It was really fun. Okay, so 1920s, the great acting duo Lynn Fontaine and Alfred Lunt. Anybody recognize those names? So amazing, amazing acting duo. They sort of took over and conquered the theater scene for a good 40 years. Noel Coward, Eugene O'Neill wrote all of these plays for this duo. And then there was one performance that really solidified their legacy, which was in 1935 they did a performance of The Taming of the Shrew. Now, what happens in The Taming of the Shrew, it's a really misogynistic play. You're taming the shrew. It's this man who marries his wife and he has to tame this shrew and teach her how to be a good wife. It's representative of the time in which it was written, and there's all kinds of things in there that, the men talk about, oh, you have to teach your wife how to be a good wife and all these things. But they were method actors. So what that meant, it's sort of, they would become these characters even off stage. And their stories of Lunt and Fontaine in 1935 during this production of Taming of the Shrew, they would kill each other. I mean, they'd walk off stage and they'd scream at each other. They'd put them in different dressing rooms, and they would scream through the walls at each other. They'd call each other obscenities. I mean, that's how engrossed they were in this production. So there was this guy who was this aspiring Broadway producer. He happened to be working as a stagehand, Arnold St. Stuber. And he was just running, lights, but he wanted to produce a Broadway show. And he saw the two of them fighting during this run of Taming of the Shrew, and he said, "This is brilliant. This has the makings of a great Broadway show." He says, "But I need Cole Porter to do it." He didn't know Cole Porter, but he knew Sam and Bella Spivak, And so he got in touch with his buddies, and they took Cole Porter out to lunch, and they said, listen, you've got to do this. You have to take this whole story of putting on the show, again, play within a play, just like we had in Twelfth Night, right? So that became Kiss Me Kate. Kiss Me Kate went on to win Best Musical. It went on to win Best Producer, Best Actor, and Best Score. It won all the Tonys it could possibly win. And one of the great songs, it would be a shame if I didn't sing this for you, but I just want you to pay attention. Cole Porter was a brilliant lyricist. So when you get to the lines, so taunt me and hurt me, deceive me, desert me, I'm yours till I die. That sums up the Taming of the Shrew for me. And Cole Porter understood that. And there's something really beautiful and humane about that. So this is So in Love from Kiss Me Kate. Changes the meaning when you think of it in that context, doesn't it? I mean, there's a darkness to that song also. So before I say anything, I need to take a moment to thank my incredible pianist, Orlando. As a tribute to how good he is, he has caught me more than once in this evening's program, and I'm really grateful to him. We actually just met for the first time 24 hours ago. We'd never rehearsed together before yesterday, and he's such a consummate professional and musician that he prepared this concert. We were able to get together, do incredible work. You're amazing. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So I want to, of course, thank everybody for being here. Also, Mom, happy Valentine's Day. It's my Valentine. It's my mom is here. So before I finish the program, I'm just going to take 2 seconds and just speak from the heart about what Norfolk Collegiate really has meant to me. This is really where it all began, not on this stage, because we didn't have this stage when I was going here. It was, this is an incredible facility. And I'm going to tell you, I've performed in major concert venues that don't have this facility. This is incredible, and this is something we should all be really proud of. I am, as an alumni of the school, that this is here for us. This school really taught me how to think outside the box. I was not the best student here. I really wasn't, academically speaking. You know, as Mr. Kennedy will tell you, I mean, I spent a lot of time, you know, in your office, unfortunately, but it all turned out okay. The thing was, I remember, and actually seeing Dr. Zimmerman, who I saw a minute ago, I know he's here somewhere, Dr. Z. There you are, great.
Love you, David.
Love you too, Dr. Z. No, I really mean that, and it was an incredible place where I was able to sort of embrace my passions, and it was a place where, even though I had some disciplined things, nobody gave up on me here. This was a school where I didn't fall through the cracks. This was a place where the individual attention that I got from the teachers here, that I got from the other families, and it was incredible. So I'm really proud to be a graduate of Norfolk Collegiate, and go Oaks. I'm going to close out this program. Again, we talked about how witty Cole Porter was with his lyrics. You're going to see exactly why. The girls today in society go for classical poetry, so to win their hearts one must quote with ease Aeschylus and Euripides. One must know Homer and, believe me, Beau, Shelley and Keats and Sappho. Unless you know Shelley and Keats, you don't. Dainty Debbie's will call you a joke, but the poet of them all, who will star them simply Raven, is the poet people call the Bard of Stratford-on-Avon. Brush up your Shakespeare, start quoting him now. Brush up your Shakespeare, and the women you will wow. Just recite a few lines from Othello, and they'll think you're a hell of a fella. If your blonde won't respond when you flatter her, tell her what Tony told Cleopatra. If she says your behavior is heinous, kick her right in the Coriolanus. Brush up your Shakespeare, and they'll all kowtow. Brush up your Shakespeare, start quoting him now. Brush up your Shakespeare, and the women you will wow. If the kid is a Midsummer Night's Dream, take the kid to that Midsummer Night's Dream with the wife of the British ambassador. Try a lick out of Troilus and Cressida. If she says that behavior is heinous, kick her right in the Coriolanus. Brush up your Shakespeare, and they'll all kowtow. Brush up your Shakespeare, start quoting him now. Brush up your Shakespeare, and the women you will wow. If you can't be a ham and do Hamlet, they will not give a damn or a damnlet. Just recite an occasional sonnet, and your lap will have honey upon it. If your baby is aching for pleasure, let her sample your measure for measure. Brush up your Shakespeare, and they'll all kowtow. That's right, and they'll all kowtow. Forsooth, and they'll all kowtow. So I'll finish with some Romeo and Juliet.
The most beautiful sound I ever heard. Maria, 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 Maria. All the beautiful sounds of the world in a single word. Maria, 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 Maria. Maria, Maria, Maria. I just met a girl named Maria, and suddenly that name will never be the same to me. Maria, I just kissed a girl named Maria, and suddenly I found how wonderful a sound can be. Maria, say it loud and there's music playing. Say it soft and it's almost like praying. Maria, I'll never stop saying Maria. But Maria, every sight that I see is Maria.